Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Happy Groundhog's Day. I know it's been a while since I've made one of these videos, and I have a multitude of reasons for that, but quite frankly, it's just not that important to share. So I'm just going to dive right on into what the topic of this video is going to be about. I'm trying to make this as quick as I possibly can so that I don't bore everybody. But this is kind of an opinion video, a little bit of a rant, a little bit of expressing my disappointment, and take from it what you will. Um, but let's get moving. So, if you've watched any of my videos before, you know that I've talked about the diversity, equity, and inclusion curriculum that was put into effect by Governor Murphy starting back in 2019 and then revised and updated March of 2021 to take effect with this current school year, which is 2021-2022. And I'm going to read some of that law that was put into place so that you can have an understanding before I lead into what my upset is about. So now, each school district shall incorporate instruction on diversity and inclusion in an appropriate place in the curriculum of students in grades K through 12. The instruction shall highlight and promote diversity, including economic diversity, equity, inclusion, tolerance, and belonging in connection with gender and sexual orientation, race and ethnicity, disabilities, and religious tolerance. And it should also examine the impact that unconscious bias and economic disparities have at both an individual level and on society as a whole. So it brings me to what I'm upset about. And I'm actually quite saddened that it doesn't seem as if this day was given the attention, even throughout the news, on the level that it deserves. January 27th, last Thursday, was International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And I know what my son's learning in school because I review his approved lesson plans on a weekly basis. And sidebar, if you wish to review your child's lesson plans, all you need to do is email your principal and indicate, who your child is, obviously, and that you would like to see the lesson plans, whether it's just for one specific class or whether it's for all of your child's classes. That's your legal right to do. You may do so. But anyway, I digress. So I asked my son what he had learned about that day. And International Holocaust Remembrance Day was not on the agenda. And it saddens me that it wasn't, because it fits right in with this diversity, equity, and inclusion curriculum. And on top of it, Thursday was a half day. Our children had, as a result of parent-teacher conferences, and then Friday they had no school, and then Saturday they knew that they were getting a snowstorm. So mentally, a lot of them checked out. So taking a break from the regular agenda and the regular school topics and to discuss, even just for a few minutes, what this day meant, I feel as if it was a missed opportunity. And that saddens me for a multitude of reasons. On a personal level, my son is of Jewish ethnicity through his biological father. And this is a big part of what his family's history is about. And although I have spoken to my son and I've taken the opportunity to discuss what the Holocaust was, who it affected, how it affected the world, not just Americans, but it truly affected the entire world. I still would like to know that my schools are going to discuss that with the children. Now, I know the Holocaust is part of a curriculum, and this might not be part of the sixth grade curriculum. I don't know for sure. I did not go back and see where it fits in. But in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, as I have been told countless times by our districts, it is to be embedded in the curriculum. So what better place to discuss with the kids? One, Adolf Hitler was committing genocide against the Jewish people because he viewed them as an inferior race to the Germans, of whom he saw were the far superior race. They were of good stock. They were a necessary part of good evolution. And his view on the Jews was that they were just going to mess up evolution. So because of that, he ran this campaign to murder all of them. And had he been successful, my child would not be here today. And having to tell my son that was heartbreaking for me. But as we know, life is not easy and we have to have those hard conversations. But that is the reality. This man, Adolf Hitler, affected more than just the Jews. I think the numbers are close to 20 million people that he killed. 6 million was the Jewish people. And then the balance was a culmination of Jehovah's Witnesses, anybody who didn't agree with his political ideology, gays, because it was illegal back then, people with disabilities, because they would be financial strains on the German government. To think that one human being had the ability to manipulate millions of people to follow in his footsteps is a frightening fact. And when I was talking to my son about it, he said, well, maybe I didn't bring it up, Mom, because it makes people uncomfortable. Well, isn't that what equity learning is all about? Making everybody uncomfortable? The reality of it is I want my son to know history. I want him to know the facts, whether it upsets him or not, because that is the only way that we make sure that our children don't make the same mistakes that have come before them. We could have touched upon so many different topics with just one conversation, one hard conversation, but one conversation. And to recognize that on January 27th, on 1945, that the Red Army liberated Camp Auschwitz. That is a huge part of history and one that should be noticed and should be talked about, whether it makes you uncomfortable or not. The reality of it is people of all ethnicities, religions, genders, everybody has felt oppression on some level. And to overlook one of the greatest documented attempts of genocide in history and not have just a quick conversation about it, that breaks my heart. Back in October, Superintendent Jack Hurley made a statement that if you've ever taught, you know trying to keep a child's attention for 70 minutes is difficult. Well, based upon that mentality, I would have liked to have think that our teachers would have had a conversation about what that day represented. Because that day, in reality, impacted every single child that sits in that classroom. Now, I have to be honest, I don't know if this was on a district-wide level to where it was not discussed. I asked my son if he had seen anything on billboards in the school about International Holocaust Remembrance Day, and he said no. And again, I just feel that this was an incredible missed opportunity to educate our children on an ugly stain in world history. And I guess at the end of it all, the only thing I could be thankful about was it gave me the opportunity to sit down with my son and to talk to him about his ethnic roots through his father's side, and just oppression in general, and go through all the different cultures that have felt it. Hard conversations, necessary conversations. And listen, if you know me, you know that I don't shy away from my opinions and that I don't like a lot of the conversations that are being injected into the school system. But history, true history, factual history, that's what I want to see my son being on the receiving end of while he's in that school. And again, it just needed to be a simple 10, 20-minute conversation. And it was a half day. They were checked out. They didn't want to do the other stuff anyway. So this could have been a great moment to get the children engaged on something that they might not otherwise be too familiar with. I'll tell you this much. thinking back to when I learned about the Holocaust in elementary school, I don't recall my teachers ever telling us that Hitler also persecuted people with disabilities and the gays. I don't know if I recall that. I just remember the focus being solely on the Jews. And truth be told, what Hitler did was on a much grander scale. And had he had his way, our world would be a much different place. And I can't say that it would be a good place either. The sad truth is, a lot of his ideology still haunts us today, as we do still have people who agree with his mentality. They use his manifesto Man Kampf, which translates to my struggles. They follow that book to a T, and they believe everything that he said. And that is a very scary thing. And that's something that we need to warn our children about. So that's it. Quick 10, 11-minute rant. I thank you for listening. You don't have to agree. We're all entitled to our opinions, but I just feel terrible for the kids for missing out on a great opportunity. And hopefully, somehow, the teachers here in Rutherford will find a way to circle back to that conversation. Because diversity, equity, and inclusion, it is a mandate. It is required by the state of New Jersey. And this is something that needs to be given a spotlight. 100%. So with that, I thank you for listening. I do not know when I will be making my next video. I have a lot of topics. This really was not on the agenda, but just because it happened recently and it's been gnawing at me for days, I just figured I'd sit down and take a minute to rant, just like we all like to do, just rant. So again, Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you're off to a great start. Be well, and I will chat with you all soon. Take care.